Welcome to Reiki Rising, your guide to all things Reiki and igniting your spiritual path. Join us every week as we delve into the transformative world of Reiki, sharing insights on how to navigate this earthly journey while elevating the vibration of the collective. Be prepared for deep discussions, enlightening interviews, and maybe even a glimpse or two into our live Instagram Reiki shares and conversations. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or new to the energy healing realm, this podcast is your sanctuary for growth, healing, and connection. Hey friends, welcome to Reiki Rising. This is our first episode together and I'm so excited. This is a recording from Sunday's live Reiki share. We'll be doing these every week. The day may change here and there, but this first one on Sunday was at 5 p.m. and next Sunday it will be at 11 a.m. So for now, we're sticking with Sundays. Like I said, that may change. If you're interested in joining the live distance Reiki, it will be available only to subscribers on Instagram for now. We're doing the live Instagram session. And so if you go to my Instagram and subscribe, you get to be there for the live, as well as many other fun things that you'll hear about at the end of this podcast. So if you listen all the way through, there'll be more information about the Reiki Rising Collective and what we're building together here, what we're co-creating. So this episode specifically is about feeling invisible. So if you've ever felt like you fade into the background, like your voice or ideas aren't heard, this comes from a lot of our experiences that we have in our life, and we talk about in this live the trauma lasagna. It's what we're going to call it for now. These layers of experiences that we have that are traumatic sometimes, and they cause us to hold on to maybe feelings or emotions that we don't always process. And so when that happens, we lose our vitality and we lose our voice sometimes. So this episode is about stepping into your light, reclaiming your authenticity, reclaiming your voice, owning your power, and how Reiki can help support you in this journey. If you'd like to listen to this discussion, I would love to hear any feedback that you have. Please don't forget to follow the podcast. There'll be new episodes pretty much every week. 2 episodes each week. These will be the live discussion recording as well as the meditation. So there may be other episodes, probably most likely sprinkled throughout, but for the most part, this is what we will be working with. If you would like more content, more interaction, listen to the end and find out how you can join the Reiki Rising community. If you're ready, let's jump into the discussion. And if you'd like to take part in the meditation afterwards, there will be a separate episode with the meditation standing alone. So feel free to choose what aligns with you. So, we'll get started. Welcome to Reiki Rising. So this is meant to be a beautiful space for us to come together to talk about topics and how we can use Reiki to help us in our spiritual journey, and how we can utilize Reiki to help us integrate these parts of us that maybe we are struggling with. A lot of the topics are going to be focused on different things that may come up if we have a blockage in a certain energy center. Today we're talking about honoring our voice. So this is if we are feeling like we kind of fade into the background, like we're invisible. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have all my little notes here, because I don't want to forget anything. Don't want to forget to talk about anything. But yeah, just feeling like we are maybe passed up, like the things or ideas that we put out there are sometimes not heard. That maybe in our career or in groups or family or with friends. And this may be something that you don't necessarily feel is happening right now, but it could be times in the past. So maybe when you were a kid, you felt like you were never picked. That people didn't really care about your ideas and group projects, or that your family told you you didn't, know what you were talking about, or that you were just a kid and what you thought about a situation didn't matter because you didn't know enough, or whatever the situation is. We internalize these, I don't even want to call them micro traumas, but there's types of trauma that are maybe more impactful, and that's really up to you to decide. Physical trauma is something that's more visible and that we can see and that, definitely can shake us up. But these, I would even say micro or smaller other traumas, we'll call them other traumas, are often repeated, and that makes them complex traumas, and they're sometimes not processed, most of the time not processed. And so we have these residual feelings, and we have these traumas lying within our body, lying within our tissue, within our energy centers. And when things come up that kind of cause some friction there, we may start to feel a little activation in these spaces. And for people who feel like they're fading into the background, or that their voice is small, or we maybe second guess ourselves a lot. This, I feel, is so much more than about like our throat chakra, but also about our solar plexus, and about our heart. I feel like this whole space right here, we're really struggling with if we are feeling like we can't express ourselves. So we feel disempowered. We feel like, I don't make the right decisions maybe, or I make decisions, but they don't turn out the way I thought they would. And so I now second guess myself, or someone told me I made a poor decision. A lot of times people have input on the decisions that we make in our life, and if things don't work out and we need help, sometimes we get feedback that isn't always helpful, especially as we're trying to process this trauma or this energy that we are dealing with. For me, just to share a little personal story. So for me, this really comes up with, the first layer of the trauma lasagna is my childhood. Like most of us, we had, maybe if you think back, you're like, oh, I had a great childhood, but there may be some little things in there. For me, I got bullied a lot. I didn't fit in. I didn't ever feel like I fit in with anybody. And I always felt like I said the wrong thing, or that the thing that I said, I would get made fun of for it, or it was weird, and kids are mean. And so we're just a bunch of like unskillful little humans running around. So I quit saying things. I quit talking a lot, and I really shut down and turned inward more. and just kind of kept a lot of things to myself, and didn't want to be seen or heard. And then when I was older, I worked in a lot of male-dominated fields. And I also lived in the South, where women are not supposed to be listened to or heard, and we don't know anything other than how to make coffee. So that didn't help either. And I felt like I had to always fight. Like, I knew that at this point, I was like, I know what I'm doing, because I had gained some confidence, in these fields of like knowing what I'm doing. But then to have someone be like, can I talk to your boss? Can I talk to the man in charge? And then have them tell them the exact same thing I did. Most of us as female presenting people have probably experienced this. And that is another layer to the trauma lasagna. And we end up with these layers and layers and layers, and then it's hard to figure out where to go from there sometimes. It's hard to figure out, like, how do I make this next step, because I don't trust myself, or because so many people have said that I don't know what I'm talking about, and now I've internalized this, so I don't know how to make this next step. So I'm questioning my power. I'm questioning my vitality, like the strength that I have to do the things that I'm devoted to. And then we have to grieve these parts of ourselves too. So we have these experiences in our life where we've had these encounters with people, or we've had these traumas happen, and we maybe have just shoved that down because we've tried to express it, and we've been told that we're too emotional, or we're dramatic, or that we're just making too much of a situation and we should just learn to deal with it, or that girls don't cry, or whatever the situation is. We've learned to just keep shoving it down. And so without processing that, we haven't processed any grief around these things, these parts of ourselves that we've hidden away, that we've locked away, that have even been killed off, have been had a lack of nourishment. We didn't feed these parts of ourselves. And so we're in this space of, I want to reclaim my voice, but how? Because every time I go to speak, I second guess what I say. I think it's not the right thing, or I think I sound silly, or that I'm going to put this out there and nobody's going to care what I have to say. Or maybe it's like a physical thing. So sometimes when I go to speak, my emotions, when I express my emotions, my throat will feel very, very tight. And when we go to cry even, we feel this restriction in our throat. We feel this tightness in our throat, or in our chest, or in our bellies. And this like build up, because it's like coming, like we can feel it getting there. And then do we swallow it, or how do we let it out? Like, it just feels like even there's like this trap door here, right? It's like this trap door that like something triggers it, and it's like, nope, nothing's getting through there. I've been trying to do the practice of, when that happens with me, placing my hands on my throat. And any of us can do this, even if we haven't been attuned to Reiki, but we all have healing within us. We all have Reiki within us, so we can rub our hands together and we can place our hands on our throat and just send love to this space. Just soothe it and tell it it's okay. I'll even just kind of like rub downward here and just kind of feel into my throat with my fingers and just loosen up that tightness. Loosen up the tightness and tell yourself with affirmations or with just kind thoughts about speaking your truth and owning your truth, and that your words do matter, and soothe that area. Just a loving touch to yourself can be really beneficial, and giving yourself also that moment of pause, because if we are balancing our throat chakra, so we're coming into Reiki here and talking about balancing our energy centers. If we are balancing this area, we don't want it to be wide open. We don't want to just be bursting with saying whatever we want to say whenever we want to say it. Of course, like, we want to be truthful and we want to express ourselves. But there needs to be balance there too. There needs to be balance. And so finding that balance is taking that pause. To not silence ourselves, but to think before we speak, and to ask ourselves, is this kind? Is it useful? Is it true? And when we get to this truth part, ask yourself, if it's true, what else is true? And let yourself think on that before you speak, because we are all going through this experience, and the other person, whether this is a conversation with your partner, with your employer, like a manager, a coworker, a friend, whoever it is, this is also their experience, and they have their own perspective and their own truth and their own trauma lasagna too. So we have to look at this as, what else could be true here as well, and what can I say to navigate this in a way that is kind and compassionate to myself, and maybe to this other person too. So that's a part of balancing this space too. And you take back your power there, because you are taking the step to recognize that there's an issue, to take action, to be kind to yourself, to resolve the issue within. And you're finding a way to lovingly express yourself, because this energy moves up through our body and we move through the heart, and to speak with compassion and love is important. I believe it's important. So that's key to remember as well, is keeping balance in this space, and balance in our solar plexus and all of our energy centers, passing through these gateways of, is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it truthful? Is it the truth? What else is true? Because we can get really caught up in our solar plexus power. We feel really like good and excited about things and powerful, and then maybe sometimes we don't think things through all the way, and we do jump forward, and then we run into those situations where we are like, oh man, I misstepped here. And I should have maybe taken a pause and been like, okay, where am I giving this away, or making a move that ultimately gives my power away? Ultimately, I'm disempowering myself instead of reserving it. So maybe this looks like jumping over into boundaries that are, a place that's not meant to be yours. We don't need to fix people. We don't need to heal other people. Instead, using our internal light and our power to hold space for people, to use our experiences in a way that is helpful, if people want to receive it. We have a tendency to, if we're feeling like really confident about something, we just kind of charge forward. But we may be kind of charging forward into a territory that's not ours. So that's also important to keep in mind when we're talking about embracing our power and taking our power back. We are taking our power back, but not to be used in a way to overpower other people and to give other people the ability to take their power, to own their power. Because if we're jumping over that wall and we're jumping into their space and we're like, I have all the answers, I do this and this and this, maybe that's not their thing. Maybe they're not in a space to receive that, and we're taking away their ability to find an answer on their own because we're just throwing what we think is best for them, when really we only know what's best for us, what's best for our healing journey, and how to process things in our own way that's, beneficial to us, integrating those things so that we can continue on our journey and expand and be at more peace and ease and harmony. And yeah, I love all that. Let me see, is there anything that I wanted to talk about that I missed here? So yeah, just kind of talking about Reiki and how it can support us in this. Reiki is life energy. It's this vitality that moves through everything that is living and existing in every dimension on this planet and otherwise. It is everywhere. And we all have this life force within us. And at its core, it's about love. But when we begin to put together the lasagna with all of these experiences, I don't know, I must be hungry. I don't know why I'm talking about lasagna so much. But when we begin to put together all of these experiences, we can block these spaces because we aren't processing those emotions. And when that happens, we begin to lose our vitality. We begin to feel really tired maybe, or really just heavy. Like for me, I kind of feel like really heavy. I notice this like when I go to like walk up a flight of stairs, not in a sense that like I'm out of breath, but that it just feels like moving out of this like dense energy that's like holding me down. It's like really hard to get momentum, And so that's my like first clue. I'm like, oof, what am I holding on to right now that I really, could be releasing, or could be not even releasing, because we talk about shadow work, and we talk about, releasing all of these things and healing all of these things, but we're really whole and worthy and love and all of that regardless. All of these parts of us, these experiences that we've had, they're perfect the way they are. But if they are, like if you are experiencing something, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of moving through it, or that you shouldn't try to integrate this. But the goal would be to accept it, to understand it, and to look at it as a way of like, okay, this is how I can interact with this piece of the puzzle. This may cause harm to other people and to myself if I continue to ignore it, because it's causing me stress. It's causing me dis-ease. Maybe I'm having a lot of anxiety because I'm kind of shoving things down and not dealing with them because I'm so worried about what people might think, or about taking up too much space, about being too much, being too loud. This is something that women also deal with, is feeling like, if I'm too loud, there's this fear around it. So, that's anxiety and fear of being too much or taking up too much space, or, we judge ourselves like, I can't get away with wearing that or doing that or that hairstyle, or I don't know what I'm doing, so I can't do that next thing. But men don't generally question themselves when they take up space. So why are we questioning ourselves when we take up space, when we try to do something new? Because we're worried about failure, about fear, about what people will think. And this comes from this space of like, if people maybe see me too much, and I'm afraid of that, I'm afraid of judgment or whatever it is, not being loved, or what would it mean if people did accept me? Like, what would that mean for me? I couldn't be invisible anymore. So sometimes we even put limits on ourselves and make ourselves invisible. And then we get into the space where we want to do that thing, but we're so afraid, and it's this constant push and pull. But Reiki allows us to integrate these parts of ourselves and to even have a narrative with ourselves of, okay, at one point this served a purpose. At one point this narrative served a purpose. The story served a purpose. I needed to be small to stay safe. I needed to be quiet to be safe, to fit in, to blend in. Maybe societal expectations of having to be a certain way to feel like you were worthy of love, or acceptance. And can I be loved for being who I am? And being okay with the answer being, some people are going to love you the way you are, and some people are only going to love you when you're digestible. And that's okay, because that's about them. And it's easier said than done, but trying to remind yourself that you are whole and lovable and worthy exactly as you are. So if you want to be loud and you want to be vibrant, you want to wear fun colors and be carefree and dance in the street and do whatever, do it. Take up the space. Be loud. Be beautiful and big. And that's not to say if you can't be beautiful and small. You can, if that's the container you want to be in. If you want to be quiet and small, be quiet and small, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's all about how you feel and how that makes you feel. Reiki gives you the ability to step into your path, whatever that is. And it helps illuminate that path. Maybe through Reiki, something comes forward that you hadn't ever looked at before. Maybe some emotion, some memory comes through, and you look at something in a different way, with a different lens than before. And now you understand it better. And because you understand it, when this sensation comes up, when these feelings come up, you can soothe them. You can acknowledge them. You can see if they are true for that situation. You can see if they are applicable to whatever the present situation is, because there may be fear or sadness or something that's coming up for you in anxiety, fear comes up as anxiety a lot, and it could be because of a situation that's completely unrelated to whatever you're going through right now. But if you can find that little thread, then it's a little easier for us to integrate that and to really love it for what it is, but know that it doesn't serve this present moment, so we can release it. And then maybe we can take that step forward that we wish to take, whatever it is. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey with Reiki Rising. Ready to take your spiritual expansion to the next level? Join us on the Reiki Rising Collective and unlock a world of connection and growth. Subscribe through our Patreon, link in the description of this podcast episode, and gain access to exclusive weekly live distance Reiki shares and enriching discussions. As a member, you'll also receive one-on-one coaching sessions, discounts on workshops, and so much more. Follow me, your guide in all things Reiki, on Instagram at Raven Waterblossom, and take the next step on your journey. Join us in the Reiki Rising Collective. We can't wait to meet you.